What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of JohnnyVTV Live. Apologies for the hiatus last week. It's been crazy, but we're back in action. And to make it up to everybody, we got two shows this week. The first of which, obviously, tonight we got a great guest. But before we bring him out, Kyle, how we doing, pal? How's everything going?
Another day, a hole being dug in the ground. You know what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, I hear that, man. We're missing our boy Nick Durst. He's got some conflicts over the next few weeks, so we're going to have him in and out of the show. But without further ado, let's bring our boy out. This is a kid I go back way back when. He's a lot younger than me, but I've known him since he's about 10 years old. He's running around Seton Hall University, always trying to make moves. The kid is an absolute hustler, and now he is working for the Somerset Patriots, the New York Yankees minor league team, as a reporter. Mr. Eli Fishman, what's good, kid? How we doing?
What's up? Thank you so much for having me on.
Dude, anytime, man. It's always nice to link up with a familiar face, but we were just talking off air, man. You're making a lot of moves. You know, it's been probably a little while since we spoke, but you know, we always kind of kept in touch, and it's cool to see you really starting to blossom and make moves, man. How's it going with the Somerset Patriots?
Thanks, man. It's going great. Somerset's been an independent team forever, and I've been covering them forever. And, you know, it's always been, you know, the lowest level of minor league baseball. And all of a sudden, they're now the Double-A affiliate of the New York Yankees. So this season, I've been able to talk to Luke Voigt and Zach Britton on rehab assignments, and Oswald Peraza and Luis Medina, a couple of their top prospects, are there now. So it's just been amazing to see. And, like, the trade with Diego Castillo yesterday between the Yankees and the Pirates, been watching Castillo all year and just seeing all these moves being made right in front of me. It's just been amazing.
Dude, that's so cool, man. You get to really – that's like the one really great thing about –
see behind the curtain a little bit.
Yeah.
Kyle, stop talking for a second.
I was helping you. Give me a break.
No, but it's cool because you get to talk to these guys that are – major leaguers, and some of them are stars, and when they're on injury rehab assignments, then you know you're going to cross paths with them and you build those connections and you meet these guys, and some of these guys are players you grew up watching. So how cool is it to just be able to kind of just kick it with them and just pick their brain?
It's been amazing. Obviously being able to talk to them, but this year has been quite wild because of the whole COVID situation. Mm-hmm. So for the first half of the year, actually until last week, there was no in-person interview. So all these press conferences, all these interviews after the game, after the games, we usually just go down onto the field, and as the players are walking off, grab them for our post-game interviews. Now we have to wait sometimes 10 plus minutes for them to go into the clubhouse, change, and then they go into a little Zoom room where they have a computer set up, and then we do post-game Zoom interviews. And with the rehab guys, they've all done Zoom interviews, so I haven't necessarily gotten to make some great connections, which kind of sucks. But on the Zoom calls, you know, there's been people like Brian Hoke, the Yankees MLB reporter, and Marley Rivera of ESPN, and you know, Brendan Cuddy and those big-time New York media people. So it's been awesome to just learn from how they conduct themselves in those kind of press conferences, and also I'm sure helped a little bit seeing my name and seeing, you know, a little kid on their Zoom screen. I would hope maybe some of them looked me up or something like that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Listen, like, you got some big time people backing you. Remember Rick Cerrone? He told you when you were probably 11 years old that, man, this kid's going places. And Rick Cerrone's a legend, especially around Seton Hall University and North Jersey. So it's awesome to see, man. Definitely keep it up. But we brought you out here because we know that you know what you're talking about. So let's get it started here. The MLB trade deadline is on Friday or Saturday, the 31st. Sorry, I lost my calendar. But in any case, there's a lot of rumors swirling around. Who are you hearing? Are you thinking anybody, especially when it comes to the Yankees? Because, man, like, we'll get into them a little bit later, but they're on the cusp of just completely falling flat on their face and just being out of this playoff race. Do you see the Yankees making any moves?
It's hard to tell because you generally don't know the direction that they picked. And by that, I mean the Yankees are really in a predicament where they kind of are facing two things, where they either go out and get the guys that they want and build this team that they want to make a World Series push this year, or I believe right now they're 6 games out of the wild card. They're in a really bad spot in terms of the standings in the whole season. They really have to make a rally to come back. So they either make the decision, do we bring up these young guys? Do we bring up these prospects and, prospect hug and let these guys like the Anthony Volpes and the Prazas and Medinas, and maybe we see a Jason Dominguez even move up the organization a little bit. Those kind of things. Do we let those play out, or do we give up an Oswald Peraza for a Joey Gallo or a Trevor Story? So I feel like they really have to make that decision, and we're yet to see if they've made it. But the fact that Brian Cashman has been talking to specifically the Rockies about Trevor Story, and the fact that the Yankees have been a name in that Joey Gallo race for the entirety of the season, means that I feel like they are going to make some moves. And the next few days, we are going to see. I feel like yesterday was a big step in terms of getting a reliever. And the Yankees do need to build their pitching staff a little bit. So I definitely feel like we do see either Trevor Story or Joey Gallo or another big guy like maybe an Eric Hosmer make his way to the Bronx. And just around the league, it's really exciting, especially my favorite thing that I've been watching right now is the Washington Nationals. They're an absolutely stacked team, one of the youngest, most exciting teams that also has a serious mix of veterans in a guy like Max Scherzer, who apparently the Nationals are looking at moving at the moment. It's not very often you have a future Hall of Famer, a top 5 pitcher in baseball like Max Scherzer, who the Nationals are all of a sudden like, all right, we're gonna listen to offers on Max Scherzer. Same thing with Trey Turner. He's an all-star, one of the fastest. He's a shortstop and center fielder, one of the fastest, most exciting players in the game. He's like 22 years old, and all of a sudden it's a topic that the Nationals are listening to offers on him, on Turner. So it's a really exciting time. Phone is always on. Had to turn the notifications on for Passan and all those guys and Rosenthal. So you get every bit of information.
You know what, man? Absolutely. It's crazy to think. And we had Sporting News Joe Rivera analyst on 2 weeks ago, and we kind of brought up the same thing. The Nationals were a peculiar one to me, and he even said, he goes, yeah, they're in a weird predicament right now. And obviously this is 2 weeks ago, and things have really shaken up since then. But honestly, in terms of the Nationals being within striking distance of the Mets, because let's call it what it is, unless when it comes to the NL Central and the NL East, if you don't win the division, you're not going to make the playoffs. Because honestly, I thought the Giants were going to fade away. They haven't. They've just continued to win ball games. The Dodgers, the Padres, they remain 2 of the other best teams in baseball right now. So it's very likely that the NL West is sending 3 teams. But honestly, I was a believer in the Nationals coming to the year. I honestly thought they were going to make the NLCS and play the Mets, because I think everybody was sleeping on their roster. Steven Strasburg hadn't come back yet. Now I think he's going to be done for the year, which is a shame. And they still have a loaded roster, but I guess in terms of the fact of looking at the future, Juan Soto's their guy, but aside from that, they don't really have another blue chip guy if they're going to decide to trade away a Trey Turner. And then obviously Max Scherzer, but he's only got so many years left. So that's definitely a peculiar one. What do you think, Kyle?
I think that the Nationals really are, not somebody that you thought would be sellers at the end of at the trade deadline, but obviously now circumstances have pushed that. Strasburg, like you noted, is a big loss, but now you got to look to salvage what you can and reload for next year, and then go from there.
So you think they should pull the plug on it and just get what they can?
Well, I mean, how many games out of first are they, John or Eli, off the top of your heads?
A lot.
So
I feel like, I think 8. They're around because they're in the same range as the Yankees. I know.
Okay, 8 games out, then pull the plug. It's time to pull the plug, John.
8.5.
Yeah, because I'm sorry, but the Mets haven't really done anything to wow you this year, and they're 8.5 games ahead of you at this point. I mean, what are we talking about? So even it seems as though in their worst effort, or in their best effort rather, when the Mets are having their worst, the Nationals are just pissing in the wind here.
Yeah, man, it's unfortunate, but I mean, there's going to be a lot of suitors for Max Scherzer. The reports are that he prefers the West Coast, which could put in play a San Diego, like they haven't been getting enough, or LA, like they haven't been getting enough. San Francisco would be an interesting fit for him, but man, I'd love to see the Mets or the Yankees go get this guy. If he prefers the West Coast, then the East Coast teams are kind of SOL, but definitely interested to see what we got going on over the next few days or so. But Eli, let's move it on here, because let's talk about that team that's actually leading that division. Great lead in, by the way. Bravo. Are the Mets getting ready for a big second half run?
Absolutely. The move, which was a very minor move, to get Rich Hill was a huge move in terms of the fact that they are building to win, and they're building to win right now. Because Rich Hill is, 42 years old? And right now, he's been one of the top guys in terms of eating up innings. That's what he is. He's not going to be a sub-2 ERA, electric kind of guy. He's a guy who's going to eat innings and pitch strong every single time he goes out there. And he's a guy who's going to stick to, who's an old school. He's going to give you 8-9 innings every single day, which is something that's lacking in Major League Baseball right now. So I'm a huge fan of that move. Also, going out and getting Anthony Bonda the other day was huge. And even in his first few games, he's been a huge piece for that bullpen. So the fact that, Uncle Stevie is looking to make some moves, the fact that this team is at the top of really the expectations have just been up and down roller coaster this entire year for the Mets. At first, we were like, all right, Frankie Lindor, JD Davis, this team is, and McCann, this team is winning the World Series. And then 2 weeks into the season, everyone was ready to trade Lindor. Everyone wanted to release McCann because he was barely even starting. And now all of a sudden, who would have thought that they're first in the NL East, and by a significant margin, especially in an NL East, which at the beginning of the season, considering how good the Phillies and the Braves and the Nationals and even the Marlins looked, who would have thought that the Mets would be coming out on top? So I think they're definitely destined for a second half, a good second half, especially with that momentum coming off this Yankees series with the Pete Alonso has been on fire, by the way. I feel like not a lot of people are talking about that. He's got like 5 homers in his last week, including the game tying homer against the Yankees, or actually that was the go ahead. So this team is hot, and it's about that momentum, and it's about the fans. I keep seeing on social media that Citi Field's been rocking. So that's definitely about the momentum.
Has the home run derby gotten Pete going, do you think?
It's gotten Juan Soto going too. People have been talking about how it kind of fixed both of their swings, even though you would assume the opposite. But you never know. Maybe just maybe not as much the swing, but it's just as much like the momentum. The excitement, in the head after winning the Derby, and after having a really tough year last year and tough beginning of the season, being able to, see yourself as kind of like, the star, best in the MLB, and have that honor, I'm sure definitely helped.
Dude, what's so crazy about the Mets is they've had so many ups and downs, and they just, with the injuries, DeGrom's not back yet. He's got a couple injury stints. Lindor, that was a big one, 3 to 5 weeks or 4 to 6 at the time. But man, they still find ways to get it done, and that's what I love about it. They have not even come close to hitting their stride this year. At any point, I don't think I've seen them and said, all right, they're on right now. They're doing all this not hitting their stride. They haven't. I feel like they haven't had their full complement of weapons really at any point this season to have a chance to get going. So the fact of the matter is now, if they just hold on long enough, I said this before the season even started. I told our other co-host, Nick, I was like, the Mets just need to hang around 500 till about the end of June when Carrasco and maybe Syndergaard comes back. Obviously, that didn't happen in terms of those guys coming back, but they were still right there in the lead for the division. And Carrasco looks like he's on his way back in a few weeks. He was, I think he did
days. He's done with 2 rehab assignments in AAA.
Yes,
so he's close.
So I mean, you got Carrasco back. He's obviously going to be on a pitch count, innings count, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but. Now, even still, Steve Cohen might be going in for a kill shot here, especially with Lindor on the shelf. But still, even when he's playing, a guy who made a ton of sense, and I thought that they might go get him, was a Trevor Story, because their pitching is more than good enough, even if Syndergaard didn't come back. once DeGrom's back and healthy, I mean, Taijuan Walker's been a savage. Stroman's been a savage. Now you just get Dick Mountain. That's a huge pickup. And just with those 4 guys going into a playoff series, I mean, honestly, there's not too many staffs that you could write in as a better one than them. So I think the Mets getting Trevor Story would put him over the top.
Absolutely. The first guy, I mean, obviously Story, like who wouldn't want a guy like him on your team? But just thinking about the Mets, and one of the biggest guys this year has been Luis Guillorme, especially because he can play so many positions, and that's been huge for them, especially with all the injuries. And one guy who I was thinking of, because I recently saw that he was DFA'd by, I believe it was the Blue Jays, was Breivik Valera. I don't know if you remember him with the Yankees, but he's a big-time utility guy, which is exactly what the Mets need right now. And they're really just looking for a spark. And whether that's Syndergaard coming back or, a pickup like even a small-time player like Valera, who's going to continue to give that spark and build off all the success that they're having right now, is really what they need, really, whoever it is. But obviously Trevor Story will be quite a big one.
Now, could you see maybe Javi Baez being in the mix maybe instead of Trevor Story?
It truly depends what the offers are, for any of those guys, of which I'm sure Steve Cohen and the Mets are making offers and, shopping their guys, especially with their farm. Another thing is the Mets don't have as strong of a farm system. And that's really something you got to look at, because in that kind of situation, do they give up a Peterson or an Oswald or a McGill, who are, their top young guys who right now aren't really getting the playing time because of the Stromans and the DeGroms and all these guys? That you have to look at, are you willing to give up these guys? Also, Chris Bryant is obviously a guy that's popping into everyone's head, because the Cubs seem like they want to trade him. They just want him out of there. And he's a guy that I feel like Chris Bryant would do quite well in New York.
Well, it's been a bad marriage from the start with Chris Bryant and the Cubs, just because of the service time. But that being said, I really think that Javi Baez over Trevor Story could work better for them, just simply because of the fact that Trevor Story might be, like we had talked about last time here, I believe, Johnny, as you're nodding correctly, thank you, that he's just a product of Coors Field. That being said, if you're the Mets in that situation, you got to deal those guys, Peterson, Oswald, because they're just not being used right now. And if they're not going to be used, then you have to get what kind of value you can for it to help yourself now.
In my opinion, man, I don't care what anybody says. I don't see the National League being that dominant where somebody's running away with it. Like, yes, the Giants are a very good team right now. The Dodgers, of course, are defending champions. The Padres just picked up Adam Frazier was a huge get for them to anchor in the middle of the infield. But when you look at it, at full strength, the Mets, to me, can run with any of them. I mean, let's call it what it is right now. Let's say Carrasco gets himself back on track, right? Let's say he's ready, gearing up for a playoff run. You have DeGrom, the way he's going, Taijuan Walker, Stroman, Carrasco, and Dick Mountain. And then let's not even say Syndergaard comes back. Let's not even say that. That rotation, to me, is one of maybe the best. Nobody's want to go against it. And let's call it what it is. Jacob DeGrom out there on the bump for game 1. I mean, come on, man. I'll put him up against anybody. He's the best pitcher in baseball. He is going to go up against any other ace. And most people would take DeGrom over any other ace in baseball right now. So
I don't want to hit against DeGrom in October.
No, of course not.
No one does.
And the Mets, to me, need one more big bat in there, whether that's Story, whether that's a Chris Bryant. It doesn't matter. They need one more guy just to hold down that lineup, though. I feel like it's been a revolving door all season for them. They need to shore it up. The bullpen's been pretty good. Edwin Diaz had just basically got the yips for 3 games straight where he blew 3 saves. I mean, most likely, dude, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen very often anymore. But, man, I think the Mets are one piece away right now. And once Lindor, who has not even come close to living up to year 1 of this contract, gets back in the mix, I think they're the team to beat. Just
think about how insane Javi Baez and Francisco Lindor would be on the same team. just how electric that would be. Feels a little bit unrealistic, and it maybe feels like, considering how both McCann and Lindor's contracts have been, maybe the Mets are not willing to spend a ton of money or not go out and make a big trade just because they're a little gun shy because of Lindor, but you never know.
That's why, honestly, I think Story might be the better play here, because I feel like Story to me is more of a guy who I would rent. Man, we talked about it. He's a product of Coors Field, but he's a guy who could put you over the top right now. He is a guy where I'd rent him for the year, unless, he's going to command a big contract. And honestly, I don't think he's worth the money outside of Coors Field. Just look at his split stats the last 3-4 years. He's a guy who can help you win right now, and who, honestly, the Rockies, look what they did with Nolan Arenado. They gave him away to the Cardinals because they didn't want to pay him. So they might do the same thing with Trevor Story. A Chris Bryant or a Baez, I had a feeling like coming into the year that the Cubs were going to probably trade 2 of the 3 between Baez, Bryant, and Rizzo. I think
Rizzo too.
I think Rizzo's going to be the one to stay. Chris Bryant, I feel like, is going to be the first one out. But at the same time, like, Chris Bryant's a hard guy to let go in free agency, in my opinion. Like, if you get Chris Bryant this year, like, I want to keep him. I don't want to let him go. He could play third base. He could play the outfield. I mean, in some occasions, I'm sure you're going to put him at first base, whatever. But he's a guy who, if he comes in the door, you can't let him leave. A guy like Story is a high-priced rental, but I think he's the one that could put it over the top, and you could live with it if he walks out the door come postseason time.
Absolutely. I could definitely see that too, just considering, the build of the Mets right now.
But let's keep it moving here, because let's flip it over to the AL real quick. Welcome back, one Eloy Jimenez, a brutal torn pectoral right before the season started. It looked like, honestly, he came back quicker than we thought he would. I mean, the kid is just an absolute freak of nature, 6'4", 230. I mean, he's a gazelle. He's a 5-tool player. What a huge boost for the White Sox, who have been ravaged by injuries this year. They lost Nick Madrigal for the whole year. As steady at second base as they come, rarely ever strikes out, not a power hitter, but he's a guy who gets on base, plays really good defense. He's just a consistent hitter in that lineup. Lose him, Adam Eaton, the DFA, got him out of there. You remember Mercedes just got called down a few weeks ago, which was crazy considering the start he had. This is something that breathes life into this White Sox lineup. I think they desperately needed this, and hopefully he stays healthy, because this front 4 for the White Sox with Timmy Anderson, Yoan Moncada, Abreu, and Eloy Jimenez is as dangerous as it gets in the MLB.
Don't forget about Luis Robert. He's coming back too. After he had, I don't remember exactly what it was, but he caught his foot on the fence earlier in the year, and that was a really ugly injury. And it's amazing that the White Sox have had so much success that they've had without their 2 maybe close to best players in Robert and Jimenez, and the fact that they're coming back gives such a boost to this team. And they've just been a huge, pleasant surprise. The White Sox, especially Carlos Rodon, obviously with the no-hitter earlier in the season, and he's got some insane numbers on the season. So yeah, this boost with Jimenez and then Robert hopefully coming back soon. This team is going to be fun to watch, and I think they might seriously make a push late in October.
I think one more move and they're over the top, man. They got it, dude. They got it. They got Michael Kopech in the bullpen. I mean, Liam Hendricks. I mean, the White Sox, man, injuries their biggest weakness. And like you said, they get Luis Robert back. It's game on. I mean, because they were really struggling. I've been watching the White Sox all year, and one thing that just aggravated me about them is the bottom third of their lineup was just always – they were always the glaring weak spot. It was like almost an automatic 3 outs if you went 7, 8, 9 with Chicago's lineup in that regard. But it's good to see, especially if Robert comes back. Man, look out. What'd you think, KD?
I'm looking at it right now because, of course, being a Red Sox fan, I'm thinking of this, and I'm like, the White Sox, wasn't that a team that we traded for to get a big left arm and Chris Sale? Yeah, looking at that trade now, we gave up Juan Moncada, Michael Kopech, Victor Diaz, and Luis Alexander Basabe. I think we definitely got the win as far as getting a World Series, but man, in the long term, it's not really paying off. This guy is a superstar, Yohan Moncada, and now Eloy Jimenez comes back from injury and helps to boost the White Sox. Who's the catcher that they just let go though because he's having problems with La Russa out there, and he's a talented catcher?
That was Mercedes that they dropped.
Well, they DFA'd him, and then I don't know if you saw the whole thing where he posted on Instagram. He's like, I'm done, I'm retiring. And then everyone was like, okay, like it makes sense. He's been struggling down in AAA. He just wants a break. And then like 2 hours after he retired, or not even 2 hours, it was the next morning when one of the White Sox beat reporters just tweeted kind of out of the blue saying, Yermin Mercedes is with the White Sox AAA team. He's in the starting lineup today. And everyone was like, what? And it turns out he's still there. He's currently in AAA with the White Sox. So that was kind of a crazy story. And he even hit a home run in his first game after announcing his retirement. So you never know that he could wind up back with the team. But maybe he gets traded, actually, now that I think about it, because of just his relationship with La Russa and the White Sox. And even though he might not be that wanted because of his lack of success in the second half of his successful season, some team might make a play for him.
Yeah, the problem, too, that he's had with La Russa was that infamous 3-0 swing that he had when the other team's pitcher was the other team's like first baseman or whatever was pitching, and he slammed the meatball right, 500 feet or whatever it was, and his own manager got pissed at him, which I thought was ridiculous. I mean, if you're gonna lay in, if you're gonna groove one like that, send it to the bleachers.
Yeah, that was. And the same thing with Tatis last year when swinging 3-0, which has just started this entire old school versus new baseball matchup and argument. It's just been ridiculous. Big fan of the let the kids play movement. It's the fact that it feels like he is in AAA, and his whole downfall has come after that fallout with La Russa and everything. And it was La Russa called out him in a press conference. He didn't even talk to him about it. He called out his entire team, actually. So, there's a lot to look at there.
No, yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, if Mercedes starts getting it together and they don't trade him, and you never know, man, he could wind up right back in that roster because he was just absolutely tearing it up early on in the season. There's no reason to think he can't regain his form. But that's a story remains to be seen.
It's amazing to see how good they've been and successful they've been in spite of their managing and the side stories going on.
Man, say what you want about La Russa, man. There's a reason why the guy's one of the best managers of all time. The guy knows baseball. He knows how to win. He might be kind of a flamboyant guy and, very opinionated, but man, that he still knows the game. But let's keep it moving to the AL. Let's go west. So, Eli, one thing that I really believed in this year, and I still think it's alive and well, was the Oakland A's. So I had them winning the AL West, and they're part of my 16 division parlay. And I was struggling whether I believed it was going to be the Astros or the A's. And the Astros lost a couple key pieces in the offseason. Yes, they're still a great team, a lot of talent there, but the A's always find ways to surprise people. They're always a team that's you could probably pencil them in for high 80s through the 90s in wins each season because that's just the kind of team they are. They have a lot of star power, and honestly, they haven't even gotten full contributions from everybody. The big key has been Matt Olson all year. Matt Olson's finally realizing his potential. He was a slow starter when he got up. He was just a power hitter. Now he's starting to develop the rest of his game. So I beg the question, can Oakland regain their composure and catch the Astros, now sitting right behind 5 games in the division lead with the Mariners, a huge surprise this year, breathing down everybody's necks?
I feel like, as you said, Oakland is always a team that surprises you. Unfortunately, it feels like I don't think I've watched a single Oakland A's game this year, just because I've been focused on like the Red Sox, Yankees, and Astros and that whole race, and I just haven't seen a single one of their games. But last year they were my pick to actually win the AL. Just the team that they had. They obviously did lose a few pieces in Simeon and those guys, but just the team every single year, and especially their bullpen, they've got 10 plus guys that we've we never even hear of, never have some guys we've never even heard of, like a Chris Bassett, who's actually, I think he's transitioned into a starter, and he's got like a 3.5 ERA or something insane with them this year, and no one's talking about them. They're always that sleeper team. And the Astros, obviously not too big of an Astros fan, considering I am a Yankee fan. So I seriously do hope that A's catch them, and I'm a big believer in this team, in this A's team, considering what they've done year in and year out in surprising everyone.
It's interesting. It's interesting you say that, just because the proof is in the pudding. They always find ways. Like they're just a team that somehow always figures out a way to grind out wins. And Matt Chapman hasn't been the player I'm sure they were expecting, because at this point right now, I was expecting Matt Chapman to be batting somewhere in like the 275, 280 range with mid-20 home runs, maybe 60 RBI, something big this year to go along with Matt Olson. And it really hasn't panned out that way. Of course, he's one of maybe the best defensive third baseman in the game, but it's still interesting to see how successful Oakland's been. And that's not to say that they still can't make the playoffs as a wild card, because listen, they're right in the thick of it. And maybe they go get somebody. I mean, they could use a starting pitcher. The only reliable guy for them this year has been Sean Manaea. You get a guy like Frankie Montez, who I thought he was going to have a much better year than he's had thus far. Jesus Luzardo, he's talented, but he's young. He got optioned down to the minors, so they still could use a couple pieces. I think it's going to take some real focus to catch the Astros, because I feel like for the last 5 or 6 weeks, they've just been on an absolute tear. And they won, what'd they go? They won like 10 or 11 straight at one point, and they just never looked back from that point on.
Yeah, I'm looking at their stats right now, and even without Luzardo, and even the offensive production hasn't even been amazing. You know, Olson's hitting 287, and he's really just been, it feels like he's carrying them right now. But just looking through their pitchers, like Cole Irvin has a 3.62 ERA, and he's made 10 starts or 20 starts on the season so far for the A's. And, you know, Manaea's pitched okay. James Caprillion too, former Yankee, and Lou Trevino in the bullpen. No one's talking about him. He has a 2.08 ERA. I think he's a Jersey guy too. I could be wrong. But yeah, this A's team, they always have those sleeper guys like Seth Brown and Tony Kemp too. Tony Kemp is in that utility role, has also been extremely effective for them year in and year out, just because he can play any role, pinch hits a lot, late in games, can literally play any position on the field. And Mitch Moreland too. He's had an okay season, but he had one hot streak where he had a few games with a couple home runs. So, they're definitely a team that's going to make that push.
This is starting to feel a little bit like Moneyball 2.0, huh there, Eli?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know about that. I think they would have a little more success if they had Epstein at the helm. Not Epstein? No, not Epstein.
No,
Bean.
Billy Bean, baby.
Billy Bean. I always confuse Epstein and Bean. I don't know why.
They still got Billy Bean out there. I'm almost positive, right?
I think they do.
I'm almost positive he's still the general manager out there.
Yeah, I think so.
I think he is, but I feel like there's been talk about him leaving.
I think he's still there for now, though.
Yeah.
But in any case, this remains to be seen. Hopefully the Astros can deliver. So, as we round it out, let's bring it back home, baby. Is it too little, too late for the Yankees?
Too late.
God damn it. Did I ask you? No. Eli, please, indulge.
It's going to be too late on the 31st at 5 p.m. Like we're getting if it's too late. But it's gonna be really tough. I think they're 4 games out of the wild card, and 8 games behind.
Wait, Eli, hang on, buddy. We're getting bad cut from you. Internet's going out.
That's all right. I'll hold up his end here, Johnny. Up there he is. Up. Do we got him?
Wait, hang on. Hold on, come back and rejoin us.
Yeah, come on back in after. So basically, John, I'm just going to give my opinion here real quick while Eli figures out what he's got going on. Thing is, I think the Yankees are dead in the water, and obviously, as yours truly, you could tell, I don't really care all that much that they're dead in the water because that's what I want to see. But that being said, clearly the Red Sox are going to have to worry about Toronto. Still, they're going to have to worry about Tampa Bay, obviously the most. And that's quite honestly who I'm the most scared of going down the stretch is Tampa Bay, that, their pitching staff will get it done.
Well, interesting. Tampa Bay is Moneyball 2.0, but you are not wrong, my friend. What do you think, Eli?
Well, the first thing I heard was Moneyball 2.0 Tampa Bay, and that I completely agree with. Listen to this. The fact that they don't have Tyler Glass now, the fact that he's on the shelf and they've played so well, also the fact that they gave up Rich Hill means that this Rays front office is cooking something up this trade deadline. Going back to Max Scherzer, I wouldn't be surprised if him or any of these big-time pitchers that have been in the talk wind up in Tampa Bay. This Rays team, obviously, bringing up Wander Franco, he's been the spark for them. Just this entire team has been insanely fun to watch, and they truly are Moneyball 2.0 in the way that they develop players, and the way that they play the game, and we haven't even seen that much from a guy like Vidal Brujan. And after trading Joe Ryan and Drew Strotman, who are a couple of their top prospects too, I feel like there's a lot of good stuff coming for the Rays. They're going to be making a lot of moves, and they're seriously going to compete at the top of that division with the Yankees and with the Red Sox. They might make a serious push late on, but back to the Yankees, you seriously worry in terms of the spot that they're in right now. It looked good for a couple days, took the first game from the Red Sox, swept the Phillies, and then all of a sudden you have a no-hitter in the 8th inning. You're leading 4-0, and you're losing before you can get an out in the 8th inning. That was just an atrocious meltdown. They're in Tampa. They start, I believe, a 4-game series tonight. So this is win or lose time. This series, it feels like must win. And this week with the trade deadline is must win for the Yankees. And as I said, they have to make that decision. Do we want to give those guys the opportunities, the Estevan Florials and the Ryan Lamars and the Rob Brantleys, or do we want to go out and get us a Joey Gallo or a Ketel Marte or Story or whoever, all these so many guys that are in the mix and people are talking about trades with the Yankees.
So what's interesting, because I had the Yankees winning not only their division, but I had them winning the AL this year. I thought this was their division to lose. There was no excuse. The Red Sox coming into the season, yes, I believed in their offense. I did not believe in their pitching, and I still don't, because honestly, let's call it what it is. The Red Sox pitching this year hasn't been that good. It's not been bad, but you're getting good contributions from guys like Nate Eovaldi, I think Nick Pivetta, Nick Pivetta. But the Red Sox, to me,
Erod has shown some flashes too. Sorry,
but still, the Yankees should have been light years ahead of the Red Sox. The Rays, of course, are always a tough team. They don't trot out the most talented team, but a guy like Kevin Cashman, he knows how to win. This guy is a smart and fundamentally sound coach that he just feeds this energy and these fundamentals into his team, and that's why they're so successful. Now, when you look at Tampa Bay, they don't even have Tyler Glasnow, like you said. And I think they didn't elect to get him surgery because they think he could come back and he might finish the job this year. Glasnow
might be back soon. He said he might be back in a few weeks.
I mean, it's bad to rush that kind of injury. I talked to many friends of mine that had full tears or even partial tears, and that's a tough one to come back from. So it's not worth it for him to jeopardize his career further. He was my AL Cy Young pick coming into the season. He was putting it all together this year. It was terrible to see. But then they go out and they get Nelson Cruz. And like you said, I think they might be cooking something else up. You never know. You can never count Tampa Bay out. When it comes to the Yankees, though, to me, they need to just go all in on a haul here because, yes, Joey Gallo what people don't understand about Joey Gallo, the guy hits absolute piss missiles. He's arguably got the most raw power in the game, arguably. But he is a career hitter that doesn't go above 220. He strikes out a ton, doesn't make a lot of contact. And in other words, he's just a lefty Giancarlo Stanton for the Yankees. Now, when it's going good, it's going good. Like, he's a great fit for that stadium. They need a left-handed bat like him. But, I mean, Gallo's not going to solve all their problems. Like, Ketel Marte, to me, would be way more valuable. He's a guy that can play multiple positions. He's one of the most underrated players in the MLB. He is a star, but he plays in Arizona, so nobody knows about it. Like, honestly, if I were the Yankees, let me tell you what I would do. I would do a package deal where it's going to bring Eduardo Escobar, who's another unsung hero in this league, and Ketel Marte. It's going to cost you something, but you never know. Arizona's young. They're probably looking to reload, retool. And if you could get the both of them, who, by the way, are versatile position players as well as great hitters, then now you're balancing out that lineup. Because, listen, DJ LeMahieu was the only constant coming into the season. He's the guy that's a 330 hitter when he's on. He's had to deal with more than he's accustomed to as a hitter. He's not a guy that is asked to be the sole hitter for this team. Now, Aaron Judge has had his ups and downs. Giancarlo Stanton in and out of the lineup. Gio Urshela is probably the other only real reliable guy to have. Now, the Yankees are not going to solve their problems with one acquisition. Then on top of it, I think you need to get an arm. Like, the thing is, the way it's going right now, man, I think the Yankees need multiple pieces in order to make this comeback. Because the fact of the matter is, yes, they're in contention for a wild card spot. Absolutely. But the problem is the way they're going right now, they're 8.5 games back, 9 games back. They are near death in terms of the AL East. If they lose the series to the Rays, I think they're done. If they need to take 3 out of 4 from Tampa Bay to even have a shot, don't sleep on the Mariners coming up. The A's, the Astros. I think the A's and the Astros are both getting in. So, the Yankees really have to make some serious moves here because, dude, one acquisition is not going to get it done. They need at least 2 acquisitions to have a shot. And you know something?
John, if I may, they need 2 left-handed bats and a starting pitcher that's a top, 20 pitcher in the game right now. They need desperate help pitching.
But it's not worth it for what they would give up, I think. I think, obviously, if you want to win, that's what you need. You obviously need left-handed bats, first base, starting pitcher. And
Anthony Rizzo, Ketel Marte, and Max Scherzer.
But what do you give up? But what do you give up for that?
That's an insanely high price tag. Yes,
and the Yankees definitely have the farm system, and that's the problem. That they have one of the, if not the top farm system in the league, which obviously I've seen, and it's just insane. But I don't think it's worth it to go out and get any of those guys really for what their farm system is, because then you're completely wiping away the future. Then you don't have a future to look forward to. And right now, the Yankees have a really bright future. And if they're willing to look 3 years in the future ahead of what they're looking at right now, which is winning right now when you're 8 games out of first to the freaking Red Sox, you can't do that. You need to look for the future.
Yeah, but let me tell you something in this regard, dude. They're paying Garrett Cole what, $30 million a year? You think you're going to bring him in as $30 million ace to not be a guy that's on a win now team? And let me tell you something.
He's got that much money for what, 12, 13 years though. And yes,
yeah, but still,
I see what you're saying, but I think they need to hold off. I think Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone are probably on their way out after the year. I maybe will give them one more year after this, maybe if they get off to a hot start in 2022. But if they don't win now, I don't see what the point of keeping Cashman is. Cashman hasn't won anything. They haven't won anything since 2009. Like, they've had a bunch of disappointing teams because the common denominator, which they could never fully grasp, no matter how much money they spend, is you need pitching come postseason time. It doesn't matter how good of a hitting team you are. Name me a team that's won a World Series in the last 10 years that had anything worse than at least a slightly above average pitching staff. I can't name too many. Like, it's not there. I mean, like I said, if they go get Joey Gallo, that's great. But guess what? To me, that's nothing.
To me, Joey Gallo's another Giancarlo Stanton. He's a 220 hitter, 230 at best. And yes, he could hit 45 home runs in a season. But if the guy's striking out one out of every 5 at-bats, it's not going to do you much. He doesn't put the ball in play that often. You have 4 results with Joey Gallo. You have a walk, a strikeout, a single, or a home run. That's it. And unfortunately, the predicament the Yankees are in is exactly the type of situation when you bring in a Joey Gallo. Their way is the long ball. That's what they do. They don't have too many pure hitters. They got DJ LeMahieu and maybe Gio Urshela. When you take away those 2 guys, everybody else is feast or famine. They refused to trade Clint Frazier. They brought in Corey Kluber, had a couple shining moments. Jameson Taillon, you knew, like, as talented as he was at the peak of his career, he's overcome so much, and it's great to see, but he's not a guy you can truly rely on at this stage. The only guy you can rely on, who, by the way, has just started getting his groove back, is Garrett Cole. He was in a bad stretch for a while. He was not looking like the ace. Now it looks like he's starting to round back into form. But guess what? If that's the only guy you have no shot against the Red Sox, the Rays, the Astros, and the A's come postseason time. That's just the fact. You need to fleece the Diamondbacks, get Escobar and Marte in a package deal no matter what it costs you, and you need to go get a pitcher. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a Max Scherzer, but it's got to be a guy that can help win you some ball games.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree that if they do decide to go that way, then they definitely need to pick up the right person as well. Like, you really can't make all these moves and then mess it up in terms of getting a guy like Gallo, who, as you said, and I completely agree, is not, even though everyone wants that lefty first baseman and outfielder who's going to hit those home runs, and because the right field is like 20 feet shorter than, not even, for most ballparks, which I think is kind of ridiculous how everyone like worships this short porch at Yankee Stadium. How they all want lefty home run hitters is insane. But I definitely agree that they do need to find that right person.
It's amazing how the Yankee lineup changes one way or the other 4 years, 5 years. Like, wasn't it 4 or 5 years ago there were 2 left-handed? Way back in the day, or when they had Cano in the lineup and whatnot, weren't they like
that lineup was like Teixeira, Cano, Granderson. That lineup was absolutely stacked.
There's so many
they had the
left-handed.
success though.
Yeah, and also the problem now, Eli, that I was going to refer to is now we got the back end bullpen. That's really been a problem when that's been this team's biggest strength. So that for me is what makes them too little, too late for them, because their strongest. What was their strongest thing about their team is now their Achilles heel.
Well, let me tell you something. Here two teams I would trade with that you could probably get some value for not giving up, not selling the farm. Like I said, the Diamondbacks are the prime team because they need more than one acquisition, the Yankees. You get the Diamondbacks, if you can really fleece them and get Eduardo Escobar and Ketel Marte, that is gigantic. That is so big. People don't understand that because bro, let's call it what it is, bro. We grew up in the tri-state area. Yankee fans, I can't stand. New York fans in general, because they only know New York baseball or their divisions. So few of them actually know the landscape of the entire league until that player actually gets them. Like, most Yankee fans don't know who Ketel Marte is or Eduardo Escobar. They want Joey Gallo because he hits bombs, he hits piss missiles, and they know who he is, and he's a big left-handed guy. But I'm telling you, a Ketel Marte is more valuable to the Yankees right now than a Joey Gallo is. And if you can get Escobar as reinsurance, a guy who could play second and third base, and that guy can flat out hit. Eduardo Escobar is a savage. Ketel Marte, same thing. So you go get the Diamondbacks. And, I mean, honestly, the best available pitcher besides Max Scherzer maybe right now is a Jose Barrios. Do I think he's that good? No. But if the Yankees got him, and unfortunately you might overpay for a guy like him. The Twins don't have any use for him. Barrios has not been the guy that they thought he was going to be. He's a slightly above average pitcher. But a guy like Barrios, who is pretty affordable, would be a strong 2 right now with Garrett Cole. Now, if Corey Kluber comes back and Corey Kluber starts being anything close to what he used to be, if Taillon can give you some production, then the Yankees form a team that can make a push to get themselves into the dance. And as long as they do that, then it's a completely new season. So I would target the Twins and the Diamondbacks if I was New York, because in my opinion, you definitely need at least 2 acquisitions, more likely 3 to have a shot. And with Arizona, you're not going to have to hemorrhage the farm. So I would think Barrios is the guy you're probably going to end up overpaying for.
Yeah, but I would love Barrios. I mean, I don't know. Whatever they can get.
Whatever they can get. So as we're wrapping up the show, let's bring it back. My favorite part of the show, the Gambling Guineas best betting trends of the night. Let's start it off. The Seattle Mariners, they were a little bit of a topic today. Plus 147 money line dogs against said Houston Astros. It's Lance McCullers against Chris Flexen. The Mariners are pretty hot, boys. They won 4 of their last 5. They're looking to make that push. They're making calls about Trey Turner. They're serious about winning. They have a low-key, underrated team, and I think they could be a sizable underdog win tonight at home against Houston. Next, we have the Rangers run line minus 1.5, plus 136 against the Arizona Diamondbacks. The worst or the second worst road team in baseball. This might very well be one of Joey Gallo's last games as a Texas Ranger. I think in the next couple of days, we might see him hit a couple dingers just for old time's sake, just to leave it off on a high note. Texas, I think they could win tonight by 2 runs. It's a big plus money play because the Rangers have been absolutely terrible. They lost their last 5 in a row, but Arizona's not been that great. But let's go against the worst road team in the league, shall we? Last but not least, the Cardinals money line minus 1.5. I love to see it. I think St. Louis, they were my NL Central pick of the season to win this division, but that clearly has not been the case. They're flirting with falling flat on their face and not getting in playoff contention, as I alluded to earlier. If you don't win your division in the NL Central or the NL East, the chances are you, my friend, will not be making the playoffs. They face the Cleveland Indians in Cleveland tonight. I think we could see the Cardinals on a solid price at minus 111. Take it home for us. Your Honor, no objections. So, our boy Eli Fishman, he has our emerging player of the night, brought to you by our friend Jayhen at Emerge Sports Group. Take it away, Mr. Fishman.
I'm going with the hometown guy in Aaron Judge. First day off the COVID IL. He's facing Shane McClanahan of the Rays in Tampa. It's a huge set. This is definitely the most important game Aaron Judge has played in all season. The most important games this series the Yankees have played in all season, because this is so huge for the momentum, as we said. And obviously Judge was hot, dealt with a couple of minor injuries, dealt with the COVID list. He's been on the shelf for a little bit. They're facing McClanahan, who it was the postseason last year where McClanahan came in and the Yankees absolutely destroyed him. In I don't remember which game it was, but that was where both Judge and Stanton hit huge home runs. So a lefty on the mound against the right-handed hitting Judge, and he's my pick.
Love to see it. They're going to need a big one from Aaron Judge today. Kyle, what are your final thoughts, my friend?
Final thoughts. It was cool to see Luke Hughes get drafted by the same team as his brother with the 4th overall pick by the New Jersey Devils. And
hockey?
Dude, what else is new?
Jesus Christ, dude. Go ahead, finish.
Again, pretty cool moment to see how excited Jack Hughes is to see his brother drafted to the same team. Hopefully, Jack will stay around now. Maybe the Devils front office convinced him to stay. I don't think it'll happen because whatever, he's sort of tired with the losing that's been going on there, but we'll see. Hopefully the Devils can turn it around this year, and Luke Hughes can be part of it.
Eli, what about you, my man? Final thoughts?
That's it. I'm hoping for a very exciting couple of days, and hopefully the Yankees front office doesn't sit on their hands as they have the last few years. So I'm just hoping for excitement in baseball. That's really it.
I would say my final thoughts are just this trade deadline. Let's move some pieces. I don't want this future potential lockout next year, which I don't think is going to happen, impact this year's trade deadline. I want these guys to get moved. I want Trevor Story out. I want Max Scherzer out if the Nationals are fully committed. I want Joey Gallo out. I mean, the way some of these guys are talking that they're going to get moved, I hope the new CBA from next year, potential lockout, doesn't impact it this year because let's call it what it is. This day and age, sports are not going to lock out. There's too much money to be lost. It is short-sighted if they lock out. The league knows that. The owners know that. And the players know that. So let's trade some assets. Eli, thank you so much for joining us today. Tell everybody where they can find one Eli Fishman.
Thank you. Follow me Twitter and Instagram at Eli J. Fishman, and the YouTube channel is Eli Fishman.
We love to see it. We love to see it. So that being said, I'm JohnnyVTV Live. This is Kyle Donnelly, Not So Live. And thanks for joining. Eli, always a pleasure. Let's stay
Eli,
talking.
thank you for joining us.
Hope to talk to you soon, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, guys.
All right, boys.